Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. Welcome back to another edition of the Compression Podcast. Got something special for you guys today. Jerome has no idea that I was going to hit him with this today, but the tables are turned today. Logan is going to put Jerome on the hot seat where every burning question that I've got about Jerome's life, his routines, his conference, his all of his coaching, everything. I've got some really great ideas. So we got a little bit of a role reversal today. This should be a fun, special episode. Jerome, how you feeling, man? I know it's a big week for you.
Man, I'm lost.
Mm-hmm.
I got so many ideas going. Creative juices are at an all-time high. And I came up with the final idea that I need to put in front of you for your contribution to conference this week on the 6th this morning. Although Fitbit changed its algorithm, so I don't even know how far I'm actually running anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it changed the algorithm, and it looks like I lost about a mile and 2.25.
Interesting.
How far I'm actually going. So that threw me for a loop last week when I did my update, and now I'm like, well, what am I actually doing? But anyway, yeah. So I had a good run. Found that last piece, got to figure out how to execute. I think a lot of people have great ideas, but they don't actually know how to execute. And so this is the final episode. This is going to be amazing.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. We've been talking a lot about the upcoming trip that I'm getting ready to take. I got a big weight lifted off my shoulders yesterday. We'll talk about that probably next week after I have one other conversation. But I had some big realizations that happened this week as well. But it's not about me this week. It's about the one, the only Jerome Myers. So, Jerome, I got a bunch of questions. We are going to start with when you wake up. I know that you don't use an alarm, and it looked like you slept a little bit more last night than you have recently. So I know you're either staying up later or, you're just, that creative juice is just draining you. But talk to us about when you wake up, what is your routine and how do you get your day started?
Yeah. So I try to stay in the dark as much as possible, and I'll find my phone. I've got a 28-minute guided meditation that I do. It's a combination of meditation and visualization. So I do that first in my little corner of the chair, wrapped up in a weighted blanket, get through that. Then I pick up a book and I go for 30 minutes on the book. From there, I will get dressed, go out, do my run, come back from that. That's usually an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Come back from that, do the journaling, make sure the schedule is right, make sure I got the high value tasks. And last week I implemented color coding. And so if I'm doing admin stuff and on my calendar, I code it red. If it's something that's a profit producing activity, it goes green. Internal content is blue. External content for other people, like being a guest on podcasts or speaking at a conference or something, is yellow. And so the whole goal there is to make sure that I'm spending as much time on green and blue, because those are the things that are going to drive revenue for us. After I get done with the journaling, we come back and we do a little bit of Spanish. And usually the goal is to go until at least 11 Eastern Standard Time without consuming any food or water.
Okay.
And then we're ready to rock and roll. And, we'll dive into the day around 10 with actually talking to other folks. I do my best not to talk to anybody before 10 a.m.
Why is that?
The silence gives you the opportunity to actually hear your voice. And I think there is a real opportunity for you to get clarity and certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last piece of it is it keeps other people from driving your day, right?
Okay.
If you wake up and you've got 4 to 5 hours of time to spend working on yourself and on the things that are most important for you, then I think you'll be able to have a pretty productive day before you even engage with anybody else.
Did you say you were studying Spanish?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Why is that?
We spend a lot of time in the Caribbean when we vacation. And so for us, I think it's pretty arrogant to go to other places and expect them to speak your language. And so we want to be able to communicate in their local tongue when we're there.
That's
Don't
pretty
do a
cool,
very
man.
good job right now, but the goal is to get better at that. And then, when I started it, we were doing a lot of construction, and the vast majority of the workforce speaks Spanish in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And so being able to communicate at that level, I thought would be important long range.
Very cool. Okay. So you touched on some points that I've brought up before: Renaissance time, finding the silence, working on yourself. For people who might hear that and know that you got 4 to 5 hours every day, working on you before anything else, with the young kids, with work, with everything, how do you go about helping other people implement similar routines? Maybe not to that extent, but how do they get started on that?
Yeah, I mean, how Elrod's got it broken down to where you can do it in an hour. I've
Mm-hmm.
extended mine just because I'm serving so many people. And so the thing that I left out that's usually involved is some form of education
Yeah.
that's audible, whether it's a podcast, whatever it is. And so because I'm serving something over 10 and less than 20 people in a given month, the goal there is to make sure that I'm consuming enough content so that it can come out of me when the the need presents itself. And
Yep.
so if somebody's dealing with something and they don't actually have the answer, my hope is either I've consumed the content that will help guide them to the answer, or I will consume it once I'm made aware that this is a need that's trying to be overcome or solved. And so, you can the stuff that I'm doing for an hour at a time, for instance, running, you could probably get that done in 20 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
And, most kids are going to sleep longer than the parents. So, those hours that people don't enjoy between, 3 and 6 are usually opportunities for you to have that quiet time and get things done that you couldn't get done if you had little people running around and hanging on you and wanting to be involved. And that part's fun. But also on the weekends, I'll wait and my girls will ride their bikes while I run. Right. And so I probably am a little delusional, but I just feel like I have angels circling me when they're riding their bikes and I'm going on the jog. And, they'll go away and do their thing and come back and check on me. And then they'll go off and do their other thing. And as long as they're in cul-de-sacs and in streets that don't really have a high speed limit, I feel good about them going to explore. And so it's an adventure for us and a way for us to all commit to that healthy lifestyle of movement.
All right. The color coding. Are you using Gmail calendar, or is that physical journal that you use different highlighters for?
No, so all of my stuff is digital or electronic, and that's so that I can go back and search it
Right.
later. And the handwriting stuff's amazing. And to implement some handwriting, I actually started taking paper notes when I'm working with folks. And so my journaling is in Gmail. I just open a new email and compose an email to myself and go through all the different sections of it. It's not as involved as Logan's, and I'm not doing two separate ones. I'm doing one. And then for the calendar, it is a Gmail calendar. Everything's integrated on one calendar, and it works really well with my Calendly app as well. And so I've been able to do some really cool things there, Logan. One, when the default in Calendly is things can only start at the top and the bottom of the hour. And so I've condensed that so that we can start things every 15 minutes.
Right.
And that allows you to get in some 30 minutes so you don't have these awkward pauses. And so we're really looking for, those profit producing activities. And there's also an ideal day. So when I'm going through my journal, I've got all of the blocks for my ideal day, and it's broken out into 8 hours. And so I'm looking to do a certain number of coaching calls. I'm looking to produce content either internally or externally. And I'm looking for some white space. I call it free time. And then there's an admin hour, right? And so all of those are there. And when I do my journaling, I'm filling in each one of those blocks for the day. And if I see I don't have a coaching call in one of those blocks, then I know that I'm not living in the optimal day. And so then I can go to figure out how I can fill that space with the thing that's supposed to be there. If I go a couple of days and I haven't produced any content, either internally or externally, I know that I'm not doing the right thing. And vice versa, if I see where I've got multiple opportunities to produce content on a given day, it means that I'm not doing one of those other activities that I think is pretty important. I know at the beginning or kind of middle of February, I did 11 podcasts over the course of a week. And, that's a quarter of my productive time. Right. And the whole point was to have content go out that was going to be in support of conference. But, I was a little off kilter when I made the decision to book all those things. And so as more people are pulling on your time, you understand this really well, you've got to be really intentional about how the calendar fills up, especially when you're letting people pick time on your calendar.
Yep.
Right. The great thing about Calendly is I don't need an admin. The other thing about Calendly is, well, people can end up in places you don't want them, and having you do things that you don't want to do. And I actually had somebody grab an hour last week and cancel the day of, and then they grabbed an hour yesterday and canceled the day of. And then it's like, hey, I just got to reschedule. And it's like, no, we're not going to. I work with people who have control of their schedule. And if you don't have control of your schedule, then, I can't be in chaos and flux when you aren't actually able to manage your time, because, for me, it's a really, really valuable allocation. And sometimes I think people disrespect that when you give them the autonomy to pick the time that works for them.
Absolutely.
But for me, it's just about being efficient. And
sure,
everybody can't get that link, especially not to an hour, right? You might get a 15-minute link, but you're not going to get an hour of my time.
I'm not even sure I've got the link, everybody. If you hear that right now, I'm not even sure I got the link. So there you go. All great productive tips there. A lot to be taken away from, especially if you're out there managing your own time, entrepreneur, business owner, or the like, right? I mean, it's a big thing that we've talked a lot about in relation to compression. So we're coming up on into first quarter. Let's talk about some of the biggest challenges that you have come across this quarter, some adversity, and how you overcame those challenges, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I have a hard time, and I know you feel this when we're talking pretty regularly, right? Like, I have a really hard time coming up with something that was a big challenge. I had some things that were pretty inconvenient. For instance, we did our 11-week multifamily investing course. We had the last formal class last night. We're able to take, I think it was 18 amazing new multifamily investors through that process. And we sold about half of those tickets to the course on Eventbrite. And because of COVID, they held all of that revenue until after the course was over, right? And so they started on January 5th, and we didn't get we still don't have that revenue in our coffers yet, even though it's been taken. But to that note, we did have one person that started that course, and they started late. They felt overwhelmed. They didn't feel like they could catch up, and they asked for a refund. Well, they didn't even ask for a refund. They asked what they could do. And I said, I'll give your money back. Like, I don't really want your money. I want you to get the education. And so that piece was a little frustrating to have. We didn't have 100% success get through. We had that one person back out, but the willingness to give their money back and the desire to have them come in and at another juncture, maybe a different product to help them get to where they want to go. At the end of the day, for me, the outcome is always the most important thing, not the compensation. And so that part was frustrating. I think the thing that I probably didn't want to talk about, but it comes to mind, and it's really a timely question. And so I invited a ton of people to speak by all measures related to conference. And everybody accepted my invitation except for two people. I had two people reject my invitation. They are newer in the space, done one deal a piece, and I just wanted them to come along and share their story. And they chose not to take me up on that offer. And that's pretty frustrating for me because they were women. And when I look around, I don't see a lot of opportunities for them to speak.
Yeah.
And so to offer a platform to them where we're going to have over 100 people, probably have close to 150, 175 people there, I thought it was a meaningful opportunity. And so it was disappointing. And I'm still trying to figure out what that actually means for me.
Sure.
Because, if I'm going to beat the drum, hey, our platform should be diverse. We should create opportunities for people who are traditionally aren't heard. I can't get frustrated, upset, mad, and not continue to create those opportunities with the platforms that I'm associated with.
Yep.
And so, that one was a little challenging or heartbreaking for me. And I still haven't fully processed it because I figured out that the second person wasn't actually going to show up for us yesterday. And so, with it being a few days, a teleconference, that was another thing. And I guess the last thing, man, is
Agent Smith got her.
Yeah. I think he whispered in her ear that if she does this, then he might take her newborn baby. I don't know. But the one thing that I did that I didn't know was going to cost as much. And so all the speakers are getting these really amazing canvases where we turn them into superheroes. And it, in some cases, one person's box costs $75 to mail. And, I didn't see that coming. I thought it would be a whole lot less based on what it costs to get things to my house. But that was a surprise yesterday. And I still have two that I got to get that are leaving the country, and I'm gonna get that done today, but it won't be there in time for them to have it before a conference. And so learning a ton, man, about just organizing events and figuring out how to do things virtually. But, I think those would be, just the frustrations, the friction of it all. And it's just the learning curve. Had I hired somebody to do a lot of stuff for me, probably could have got it done, but I don't know that I knew enough. And this is probably the biggest one right here, Logan. When you're creating something from scratch, if you don't know what you actually want, it's impossible to delegate it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work your way through it. And if you delegate it, it's going to be super expensive because all you're going to do is make people churn and reiterate and change and go over and over and over again until you get to the thing. And for me, it's easier for me to work through the process and figure out the storyline. As I said, your contribution for conference, I figured it out this morning, and now I just got to figure out how we can execute it. But if we pull this thing off, it is going to be a climatic scene for the event. So
yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. All right, cool. So talked about some challenges, man. What's the top win over the last 3 months, man? What's a big win that you said, man, this is awesome that this happened?
Yeah. So the thing that was crazy, I had a life-changing experience over the first weekend in March. So flew down, snuck out of the country for a little while, went to the DR for the weekend. And on that Friday, I was like, I want to do something we've never done before. So we chartered a helicopter to go have a picnic on the beach after flying over a waterfall. And so we hop in the helicopter. Well, first they drag the cooler out to the helicopter. They load everything up. We get in, we fly, we go over the waterfall, and then we're coming back. and then we land on the beach, Virgin Beach.
Wow.
Right? Hop out, and it's just the beach, a helicopter, the pilot, and maybe 6 or 7 other folks between 2 helicopters, right? And so we're just there taking it in, and it's just like, this is different, right? And I mean, we were probably in a helicopter for an hour overall, but just the thought of being able to do something like that just expanded
Yep.
capacity. But it also took me back to August 13th, 2005, because that was the last time I was in a helicopter for that long. And I was being medevac from the scene of an accident to a hospital in Richmond, Virginia, so that they could operate on me for 14 hours. And so while I was there, while I was in that helicopter in 2005, I looked at whoever was a paramedic, I can't even remember their face at this time, and said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go to sleep." And I said that because I didn't know if I was dying, right? But it's just like, I'm going to go to sleep. I hope that's okay. In this instance, we were flying, and I got to the place where I was getting sleepy. I wanted to go to sleep, and I just thought, man, how different this experience is compared to that. Same general mode of transportation,
Sure.
but different country, and going to do something that you've never done before. And so, that just expansion of what is possible, and the shift to, hey, there's abundance, there isn't scarcity, is just amazing how much life can change over the course of a year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure that was like you mentioned, a life-changing experience. It's incredible how your physical environment can, if you're self-aware enough, can change your perspective on things. And I think it's why travel is so important. It's why, getting up whenever you're feeling a certain way and changing your physiology is so important on a smaller scale. So I got some fun questions. You ready for some the rapid fire round here, man?
Yeah, one word, one phrase. Here we go.
All right. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Ooh, my subscription to Remo.
Subscription to Remo. Tell us what that is and why.
So Remo is an alternative to Zoom for web meetings and conferences. You got the opportunity where there's actually a floor plan. You can pick the table you want to sit at and engage with the people. If you don't like that table, you can leave and go to another one. There's also a presentation platform where you can do meetings, right? So you can do a webinar like you would traditionally see people when they do a screen share in Zoom. And the reason why it's really beneficial is because that's the platform that we ran our class on. And it's also the platform that we're going to run our conference through. And so while the conference needed a higher dollar commitment and subscription for Remo, what we needed for class was a whole lot less.
Yep.
And so we were able to come in and, for that monthly subscription, bring people in, allow them to mix and mingle without dictating who was going to do it. I never really liked Zoom roulette, but that's what a lot of people are playing. And so I think people enjoy the opportunity to choose. And so that was super valuable for us.
Remo it is. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
Oh, man, I like to create stuff. Right. And so I'll have these 1 to 2 week periods where I just create massive content that's just spread throughout kind of the web, the interwebs. People call it interwebs. I don't even know what interwebs are. I'll call it internet, right? And so it'll show up on social media. It'll show up in email blasts. It'll show up here, there, and everywhere. And we like to repurpose that content as much as we can because it takes a whole lot of effort. Sure. For the folks who are listening to this and they're actually coming to our conference, you're going to see like this amazing 15-page brochure that is going to walk you through conference and introduce you to all the speakers and give you some assignments and tasks. You're going to see the stuff that we created that is kind of keepsakes to keep you reminded that this is the thing that you need to do. And so, as we go down this path of creation, I just don't think a lot of people are up for that. And Logan, I know you like writing and doing some other stuff, but people just say, "Hey, I'm not creative," and then just kind of throw it away. But I think when you create, you're most godlike, and I want to be in that space as much as I can. But it also takes a tremendous amount of energy and it's draining. And if you've got other competing tasks, then you can end up in a spot where you don't actually have the time to hear the voice to actually create the thing.
I love that. What advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world?
Whew. Watch The Matrix. It's a documentary.
There we go. What advice should they ignore?
Man, I think the advice that they should ignore is putting their money in their 401k. I don't think if you have any ambition to be an entrepreneur or an investor that the 401k is where the money should go. I think the money should go in a savings account until you get something meaningful. And as much as a lot of people don't like Grant Cardone, I think he's got it right. I think you pile up 100 and then you go do the thing. If you are putting money in a 401k and dumping a bunch of money in your primary residence, you're not going to be able to create the thing that's going to set you free from having to trade your time for money. It just, you build a jail cell and you don't even realize it's happening.
Yep. What are bad recommendations that you hear in your profession or your area of expertise?
Oh boy. Yeah. Go chase Moby Dick. Yeah. So, I think everybody's been being told that they can quit their job in a year by doing one big deal. Go buy a $10 million apartment building. And if you do that, you're going to get this fat acquisition fee and you can retire. And it's just not true. I know one person, and I haven't had a chance to interview her yet, who's actually been successful at that. And when I get to interview her, I'm really going to dig in and see where it is and how it was she was able to accomplish it. But I think most people who, if you haven't run a business and you don't have previous investing experience at a pretty deep level, you're not ready to set up a business that requires you to raise money and run a deal, right? Like it's two separate businesses. They're two very different skill sets. And if you aren't competent at both, you're going to crumble under the weight of it all.
Great. I love that. I love that answer. And I couldn't agree more. Bring out your crystal ball. Where are interest rates going?
Up. They're going up. And I think they're probably going to go up and the valuations of property are going to go down faster than what people think. And, maybe I'm doom and gloom. Maybe I'm a little contrarian, but I just think you've absolutely got to buy the stuff right. And if you want to exit, I'm seeing people model things and saying that their reversion cap rate is going to be less than what it is they bought the property at. And they bought the property at something in the fives. And I don't believe anything they're saying. And, I hope I'm wrong for everybody's sake. But if I'm right, there's going to be some folks who are going to be hurt pretty bad.
Yeah. There's Robert Kiyosaki said there's three sides to the coin. You got heads, tails, and the edge. I like to stay on the edge. I'm studying both sides. There's people advocating for an actual deflationary period. There's guys advocating for and making the case for asset prices rising and interest rates staying low. There's the arguments all over the every single side has advocates. What we're trying to do is give people access to resources so they can form their own opinions. But one thing that I'm really interested in watching is kind of how the velocity of money is rolled out over the next 3 months. It'll be very interesting. But there's also a debate here that if it's not commercial real estate, what are your other options, right? So like compared to what? And so there's that debate out there as well. So going to be an interesting next 3 to 6 months. But one question that we've we've continually fielded from investors is the great inflation debate and where interest rates are going. And I am enjoying learning and talking to people about it. So I thank you for giving me your perspective on that. I think I know the answer to this question, but this will be the last question to our fire round. If you could have a billboard that 1 billion people would see on a regular basis, drive by, and it could say one thing, what would that be and why?
Your dreams should be real.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And I think we put a period on it, maybe an exclamation point. I'm not sure. But here's the thing, right? There's so many people out there encouraging you to be mediocre, fit in, just accept whatever's happening. And I don't think that that's what we're created to be. I don't think that's what our life is about. I think we're put here to be actual superheroes. I think we're here to move and shift the way humanity thinks. And humanity can be as small as your household, but it can be 1 billion people, as Logan just presented in this amazing question. And so if you have the latitude and flexibility to do that, if you have that capacity and you waste it, then what are you here for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? And so I want people to be, if nothing else, guilted into actually using their time for improving the state of the world.
Yep.
Right. If you don't improve the state of the world, I don't know why you have the blessing of breath.
About a mile down the road, there will be another billboard, and it will say, "Take the red pill," period. All right, man. That was great. Lots of value to be had there. I'm going to put you guys up on game. The questions that I'm asking Jerome are straight out of one of my favorite books, which is up behind me. You can't tell because I got the nice blurry background now. If you're not watching this on YouTube or watching the snippet, go check out the new video setup. It looks fresh. Put myself up on game on that. But Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. He asks some of the most successful people these same questions, and their answers are incredible. So go check that resource out. There's a lot of blog articles around it. Jerome, thank you so much for sharing some wisdom with us and playing along with me and shifting the tables a little bit just to kind of get into your brain. And I'm very excited about the conference coming up. I'm a little bruised that I'm not going to necessarily be a part of it like I usually am, but we're going to come up with something cool, and we are going to sign off right now and actually talk about that. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Compression Podcast. Next week, we will be back on our regular routines. I have some huge insights and revelations and some changes that are coming, so stay tuned for that. Jerome, any last closing thoughts or a quote that you want to end with?
Your dreams should be real. Period.
Your dreams should be real. I'm going to leave everybody with one of my quotes out of my handy dandy little quote book here. It's called "It's Always Seems Impossible Until It's Done" by Catherine and Ross Petros. But I like to study presidents, and the reason being is, there's only one at one time, and they got there for a reason. But good old Honest Abe said that I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. And I absolutely love that perspective. So go take that first step this week. Every long journey starts with a single step. I've got a little plaque on one of my shelves here that reminds me that of on a regular basis. So take that first step. Don't be looking back. Don't be checking the rearview mirror all the time. Be looking forward. Take action. Take your next step. Your dreams should be real. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you soon. Hey, compressors, if something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.